Welcome to episode 3 of Table of Mentors. I'm Scott McLaughlin, and today we are going to be exploring in this podcast the dynamics between the mentor-mentee relationship. And helping us explore that is Fran Watson. Now, Watson is a distinguished Toastmaster. She has 20 years experience within Toastmasters. During that time, she's held every executive position on the club level at least twice. She's served as area governor, which is now called the area director, and divisional governor, which is now called the divisional director as well. So Fran brings to the table a lot of experience. She's been a mentor for many years. She was a Pathways ambassador, and she was also a member of the Mentor Circle within this District 61. So, Fran, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Scott. Nice to be here.
Perfect. Over the years, how many people would you say approximately have you mentored?
Wow. Too many to count, really. Over 20 years, I have been mentoring pretty much every year. And when I started the club in Renfrew, I actually mentored the entire club because they were all brand new Toastmasters. And then with the Mentor Circle as well, I did a lot of mentoring throughout those years. It would have to be over 50 anyway.
Wow. That's a lot of experience, and I'm sure you have a lot of stories, and maybe we'll get into some of them later. What conditions, okay, when the mentor and the mentee are assigned to each other or find each other, what conditions are probably the most ripe or prime for the relationship to grow?
Understanding where each person's coming from, really, to look at listening. What do I need? What does this person need? What do I have to give them? Am I the right person for this person? Because sometimes mentees are assigned a mentor that just may not be the right fit for them. And it's important to know that off the bat, say, listen, I think maybe I'm not the right fit for you. Let's find somebody else. So there's a need to understand what each person needs, what the mentor needs, what the mentee needs, but really to actively listen to that and understand where they're coming from.
That's right. I think it's really helping them connect the dots to what it is that they want and whether you can help them reach that. What's a reasonable expectation that a new member should have from its mentor, from a mentor? What can they and what could a mentor expect reasonably from a mentee?
Initially, when we were in the old program, it was 3 speeches. But I think that changes depending on the mentee and the mentor. I had one person who, after 2 years, was still saying that I was their mentor because they would still come to me and ask me questions. So they still felt that I was their mentor, even though there was no real relationship to say, okay, from point X to point Y. It was a case of, what does the person need? Sometimes a person may just need that introduction to the educational program to help them get set up, to help them get in. And once they're there, they can follow along and they're fine. Other times you may have someone who is very needy. And I did have that one time with a person who my phone would be ringing all the time. You're just like, well, what do I do now? What do I do now? What do I do now? Just like, no, let's set some boundaries around this, because that's not what the mentor-mentee relationship is. If you've got some valid questions, be happy to answer them, but I am not answering my phone 15 times in an evening. And that happened with this one person. I have to say, I am not the mentor for you. You need to look for somebody else, because I do not have the time, that kind of time, to devote to just answering questions that you can figure out yourself.
Right. I find with Toastmasters, a lot of people, it's all about expectations. And it's a different kind of learning format than traditional education or maybe what they've experienced in the workplace. And I find that a lot of people have to really come to the realization that it's not a passive experience. You're not going to spoon feed me, and that there's a certain amount of responsibility that they have to take on in the relationship themselves. What do you find are the obstacles or stumbling blocks that you've noticed over the years where maybe a mentor fails in carrying out their obligation, and also from the mentee?
Time is huge. just finding that time to be able to set up with the person, especially now. Before, in a meeting, you could just ask a person to come a little bit early to the meeting or stay a little bit after a meeting. But now with everything on Zoom, it just seems to be more difficult to do that sort of thing, to set things up and find a time that works for everybody. It's just everybody's busy. Everybody's got a lot of other things they're doing. For instance, I have 3 meetings a week.
Yeah.
So I have a club meeting on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday often. I stopped my 4th club, but I'm still in 3 clubs. But that's one of the big obstacles. And sometimes there's that a know-it-all attitude, like, no, I don't need your help. I'm good.
Yeah.
Or the person wants to maybe give too much information to the mentor. And, oh, you need to know this, and you need to know this, and you need to know this. And I have seen some mentors like that who have been, this is what you should do. And it's a personality thing to some extent. I mean, someone who is a person who likes everything planned and organized and everything else is going to come across that way. And maybe if they're coming across to a person who likes everything kind of free and easy, that's not going to be appreciated.
Yeah.
And then the expectations as well is like, what are the expectations of the mentee to the mentor, or the mentor with the mentee? What? And they may not jive. As I said, you may have to give that person, no, this is not going to be suitable, a suitable relationship, so let's find somebody else.
Okay. So would it be fair for you to say that within District 61 Toastmasters in general, that there are a lack of mentors?
Every club has mentors, so I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
It's a matter of how do they mentor. I mean, you can have one person that's mentoring an entire club in some ways, or you can have people that are not looked at as mentors. They're not saying, oh, this is a mentor, but yet they are mentoring the club.
Yeah.
For instance, in our clubs in the Valley, what we're doing is we have an educational tip every week. So that educational tip is a mentoring process. And what we're doing is we're utilizing what Toastmasters has put out, the Successful Club Series, all of those. And it can be done by Successful Club Series, can be done by somebody brand new. And so we often have newer members that do the introduction to how to do an introduction, how to close, things like that. So they're mentoring the group, but they're also learning themselves. But we've been using that. Some of it's a little outdated, but they say take it and run with it, make it your own. And that's what we've been doing. But we do educational tips every week.
Perfect. So what advice would you give somebody if they're kind of like sitting on the fence? They're not sure whether they have it within them or whether they can be a mentor or should be a mentor. Because I think, like, since the introduction of pathways, things, my opinion, I think the approach to mentoring has changed. Whereas in the past, we used to have a more senior member and a very junior member or new member coming in to the relationship. What kind of soul searching would somebody have to do to decide, well, yeah, I'm ready to be a mentor, or I should be a mentor?
Sometimes it's just a matter of a more senior person giving them a little nudge. Because, I mean, you can be a mentor to say, I know what it's like, to a new person. I used to feel this way when I started, but this is what I did. And that's a mentoring process. I mean, people don't label it mentor necessarily, but that is a mentoring process. It's saying to somebody, hey, I've been there. I know what it's like. So going through the Pathways program, the same thing is like, man, when I first looked at Pathways, when I saw it, oh, I'm never going to be able to do that. I mean, I remember sitting in a conference and it being explained, and I was like, wow, I'm not going to do that. And I know a lot of people who've been in Toastmasters for a long time still have that same feeling. But once I started doing the training for Pathways and really looking at it and understanding it, and I think that's the key, is understanding what you can do with it. Because once you get to the electives part, there's so much you can do with that. There's so many places you can take that. It's so worthwhile for work. And I actually I'm a career counselor, and I encourage my clients to join Toastmasters for the Pathways program because of what you can do with it and how it can help them at work. So I think it's really taking a step back and going, okay, I can do this. I mean, we always did icebreaker. Every time we did a new path, but every time we did a new book, we did an icebreaker. So we're still doing an icebreaker. And people said, oh, we don't want to do an icebreaker. We always did icebreakers. I couldn't tell you how many icebreakers I've done over the years, 20 or 30 anyways, when I did my Toastmasters. So really, it's the same thing. It's similar there. It's just that getting used to it, understanding and accepting it, and looking at where can it take me.
That's very interesting. I find the icebreaker is kind of like the real life project that you can do, because you're doing it career wise when you meet somebody professionally, you're doing it socially every time you meet somebody socially. So it's kind of like, this is who I am. That's interesting. What do you, I want you to fill in the blank for me. Okay. I'm just going to say a sentence for you. Okay. You just kind of run with it off the top of your head. A new member needs what?
Guidance. Yeah, help to get into the program. I mean, because of the way Toastmasters is set up, you have to help them actually get into Toastmasters to begin with. This is how you do it. You put your name in, you send it, you get an email back, you put that information in, and then you can log in. Once you get there, here's where you go from there. So that's easily done with Zoom. I mean, you can actually pull it up for somebody, have them pull up their screen and walk them through it as they're doing it.
Right.
So that's one of the things they need is guidance. Now, that's mentoring in a way. Somebody may just not want to be called a mentor, or they may not see themselves as a mentor, but they are.
Yeah.
And someone through there. So I think that we may have a lot more mentors than are officially identified as mentors in that, because people help each other, step through the roles and get into where they need to get into. Here's how you get into your level 1. Here's how you get into this part. Here's what you need to know. Here's where you find your evaluation forms. Here's where you find your resources.
Right. So if I was to grant you absolute authority or power within Toastmasters to set up any standard, any policy, any practice in regards to mentoring across the district, across Toastmasters, in fact, what would you like to have instilled or installed within the program?
I think I would want to not be strict, that to have things open, because things are open. There's no one size fits all. I mean, we are not all 20 plus members per club. We are 6 members, 8 members, 10 members. We don't all have the same. I mean, initially looking at the whole mentoring programs, like, okay, well, we should have somebody who's going to look after all the mentors and assign them with, to everybody and keep track of all of this and see where people are. It's great if you've got 20 or 30 members, but if you've got 6 or 7, everybody's a mentor. So right. I think it needs to be more flexible and open, and just here's resources. And we have lots of resources on District 61. We have resources from Toastmasters International. So the resources are there. It's how do we use them? And I think that the district is doing really well with providing information as well on how to use some of these things. How do you adapt them in your club? So I think that there really is, there's no one size fits all. There's no, this is how it should be done. It's open. Here's the resources. Here's some ideas, some tips on how to use these resources. Here's who to go to if you need help with them.
Right.
I'm not going to impose anything on anybody.
Just be free, experiment, and that's how I've always looked at. Yeah,
absolutely. Experiment with it.
Yeah,
and see what works for your club, what works for your group, because different things will work for different clubs.
Perfect. Great. So earlier you mentioned that sometimes you'll have a mentoring relationship and it's not working, or maybe it's gone stale. What are kind of like the telltale signs, or what kind of says to you personally, okay, maybe we should kind of have a discussion about whether terminating this relationship or finding the mentee a new mentor? Typically, what happens?
Well, in the case of that one person that I said that was constantly calling me, I spoke with her and said, I don't have the time. I'm going to suggest a couple of other people to talk to see whether they're willing to be your mentor. So she did talk to one other person, and that person says, I'm available Wednesday nights at this time. And she's like, well, no, that won't work for me. Then, okay, well, then you maybe need to mentor someone else. So she went on to another person who did accept to being her mentor. And so that worked out.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't mean she doesn't still contact me and ask me questions, but I'm not officially.
Sure, sure.
But I think that it's a case of talking with the person to saying, I don't think I'm the right person for you. As the mentor, you want to take the responsibility instead of it being the mentee. You want to say, I think that maybe someone else might be a better fit for you. And I think one of the roles of the executive to me is looking at the people in the club and who would they be a good fit for. So if you find someone who's working in the same location, then maybe that would be a good fit for the mentor and the mentee, because they maybe have an opportunity to get together at work as well. Or you may know someone because you know who's been there, what experience they have, what skills they have to be able to give to another person. So you may know that they're very patient.
Right.
So that would be a really good person to connect with this other person. Or it may be that a man would be better for this other man, or a woman for this other woman, depending on the situation. But I think the executive is really a key place to start when they take a look at, well, who is there, who has, what kind of skills do they have, because everybody brings different skills to Toastmasters. It's not just Toastmaster skills we're looking at necessarily. It's some of the other pieces that we're bringing that maybe this is a good fit for this particular person. And it could be for 2 months, 3 months, it could be for a year. It depends on what's working with between the two people.
Right. Is there, like, currently, in your view, any gaps that exist within Toastmasters as far as mentoring goes? Like, I know, like a member, like on a club level, mentor, member, new member, that's
Yeah,
typically how we mentor. But do you see as there being any gaps that personally could be filled?
I guess it depends on the leadership roles. I have seen excellent division governors
Hmm.
who work with their team and really teach their team and learn. I've also seen some that really kind of leave them hanging and they don't necessarily get the training. Having had the opportunity to be an area governor, area director, which it is now, I had the opportunity to also mentor other area directors in
Perfect.
that. And I'm still to some extent doing that with our current one. So there's opportunities there. But again, it depends on the person and what they want to do, what they're willing to do.
Right.
Because when I had a division governor, absolutely excellent in training, had meetings and looked at what's happening, what's going on, shared information. But I know others have not had that. They were kind of like, I feel like I'm left out in left field here. But I
Exactly.
think we do. I mean, we do as a district provide training. We have meetings and the training is there. Are people paying attention to it? Are they attending? Are they doing what they should be doing as an area director, as a division director?
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you're a career counselor, and I'm
Mhm.
sure there's been some skills you've been able to transfer over into your mentoring philosophy. What other influences have you had over the years that may have contributed part and parcel to your overall mentoring mindset?
Well, I had 4 children,
Yeah, yeah, you got a point
still
there.
alive and healthy and well. And interestingly enough, I remember at one point, one of my children saying to his friend, "Oh, you need to talk to my mom. She can help you with that."
That's the best compliment.
But I know at one point somebody stopped at my house and said, "I see you always have a lot of children here. Do you babysit?" And I said, "No, four of them are mine. Three of them belong to that house over there, and one belongs to that house over there." So I had 8 children in my yard.
Right.
And so, I mean, that that was part of what I brought. And now I have grandchildren. I have 6 grandchildren as well. But I think that helped raising children and understanding and seeing their peers and everything else. I've been in career counseling for over 30 years.
Wow.
So yes, I'm probably bringing some of my knowledge and skill set from that into Toastmasters and looking at what do people need? How do I help them grow?
Right.
Because that's what I do as a career counselor, is look at what are your skills? What are the things that you're not recognizing about yourself? And let's pull them together so you can use them.
Okay. So, and this may be a version of a similar question I've already asked you, but where do you find mentors really missing the mark? Like when they're in the mentoring relationship with a mentee?
I remember one mentor who didn't get in touch with the mentee. And I asked, why not? Well, it's up to them to contact me. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
That's not how I see it. I see that you should reach out and let them know, well, they've been assigned to me, so they should contact me. Perhaps this relationship is not going to work out. Perhaps that person maybe should get another person. But sometimes, I mean, that can be an attitude, as I said, that can come across. And why would the mentee even want to speak to that person with that kind of an attitude? Not feeling like they're going to be helped.
Yeah.
So that can happen. Or they drop the ball. Maybe they start the person off and then they think the person doesn't need them anymore because the mentee doesn't get in touch with them, instead of reaching out and saying, is there anything else you need? Can I help you with anything? How are you doing? Just even a quick phone call or a Zoom call or whatever, just like, how are you doing? Is there anything I can help with? Are you good to go? How did you enjoy that last thing? Your speech was really good. I noticed this, those kinds of things that you would be doing as a mentor.
Okay. Let's say a new member joins July 1st. I'm not sure what club would start on July 1st, but they're starting on the first day of the new Toastmaster year. Within 1 year, what is a reasonable expectation from your view for a new member to accomplish or to have learned within that 1 year period? Just bare bone basics.
Depends on what they want to learn. Okay. Because people we've seen some of the people that can go through a whole 5 levels in 1 year if they want to. Same thing with when we used to go through the manuals. Well, some people could complete a competent communicator in under a year and move on. And it's the same thing with the pathways. They can do it if they want to do it, if that's what they want to do. They can get through their level 1 in a short amount of time. Now that depends on whether you've got a huge club and you have to really fight for your speaking spot, mind you. But if you are speaking even once a month, that's 12 speeches that you're doing. That's pretty well getting you through.
Okay.
So it's a matter of really what they want to accomplish. And sometimes that needs some encouragement. How are you doing? Sometimes people can get stuck maybe on a level or something that they're doing, but it's a matter of what do you want to do?
Okay, that's fair. So let's just say I'm a new member. I'm coming into a new club and I'm eager, but I haven't been, the opportunity of a member or having a mentor has not been presented to me. And maybe our club doesn't have a mentoring program. So what could I do as an individual, like the mentor, a member without a mentor? Okay, where would you suggest that they go for help, for guidance?
President, VP Ed, any member of the executive should be prepared to help that person get started. Wow. In my opinion. No,
I totally agree with that. Oh, that's really interesting. So, what does the future hold for Fran Watson? Okay, like within let's talk about life. Let's talk about Toastmasters. What mountain is there for you to climb next, or what would you like to achieve in the next little while?
I
Three,
have to
5 years.
I have to get through the two paths I'm working on now. I've completed one. I have two more to go.
Good for you.
I'm actually going to Montebello this year to the conference. It's been a while, so I'm
Good.
looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to having our clubs grow enough that I don't have to be on the executive every year, that I can just kind of go, "Whew, I'm just a member this year." Hasn't happened yet in 20 years, so I don't think it's going to. But
Well, it
could.
can happen. Yeah.
It
Yeah,
could happen.
it can happen. That's the way it was in my club. And when you get to the point that it's not starting and stopping with you, it's such a great experience because then you become kind of like a free agent, and then you can experiment with things and try other things out. That's
That's
great.
what I'm looking forward to. I'm actually going to be, I have never been a test speaker because I've been in so many clubs, people knew me, so I couldn't be a test speaker. I'm actually going to be a test speaker for my sister's club. She's an area director in the Barrie area,
Okay.
and I'm going to be a test speaker on Thursday night.
Oh, that's good.
So that's my first time as a test speaker.
Well, that's great. So, any final things you would like to say about mentoring, supported, like in supporting it? A lot of clubs, there's a lot of clubs out there that don't have mentoring programs officially. They feel that maybe they don't have enough time, they have too much to do. What would you say to those clubs right now, like about the investment in mentoring on some level within their club?
Start small, do an educational tip, take 10 minutes and do, like the other night I did 5 minutes on District 61, what we have to offer, what the resources are. I pulled up Zoom and we looked at District 61. We took a look at everything that's available. Start there, start small. Look at the mentoring program, present that because maybe they've never presented it. Present that as an educational tip. Let people know what is it, what's it all about, how can they get involved. It doesn't have to be setting anything up right away. Just, well, what is it? Here's what it is. Start using, I think that they're not utilizing the programs that Toastmasters International has provided for us. They haven't taken a look at them maybe in the last while. As I said, I mean, they're a bit outdated because they still say manual.
Yeah.
But revise them. Just take them and revise them. Do a new PowerPoint. And or when you're going through the PowerPoint they provide, I don't because I like to create a new one.
Yeah.
You can do it that simply is just take what they've provided, go through it and say, we don't have manuals anymore. We have the new Pathways program, move on and just talk about it like that. It's as simple as that, as providing a little segment in your meeting, 5 to 10 minutes. Here's a little information. That's mentoring to get you started.
Right. That's right. The one thing Pathways has given us is an opportunity to pivot. And same as the pandemic, opportunity to pivot. So I think, and that's not really a stretch from real life. We all have to find a way to roll with the punches. Fran, I want to thank you for joining us today. And folks, if you've liked this episode, please like it and share it. And if you have a comment or a suggestion, please drop it in the comments below. And let's continue the dialogue on mentoring. And until next time, take care. Thank you, Fran, for joining us today.
You're welcome, Scott. And if anybody wants to get in touch with me, it's just fran.toastmasters@gmail.com.
Perfect. Thank you.